What do the ancient myths have to do with our lives in this present day? As it turns out, the myths have profound teachings that apply to our daily lives right where we are in the present moment. For one thing, the ancient myths clearly teach that the gifts of the land, the gifts that are given to men and women, the gifts that are given to a country, the resources that are given to a land, are gifts from the gods. We see this in many myths. And one myth where we see it very clearly is in the myth of the contest between the goddess Athena and the god Poseidon over the Attic Peninsula in ancient Greece. In ancient Greek myth, this is alluded to by Plato. It's preserved in many different accounts from various ancient authors that the region of Attica once had a contest to see which god would be the patron of that land. And Poseidon, the god of the sea, came and struck the ground with his trident and caused water to gush forth. And it was very impressive. And it's the gift of the sea and all the resources that come with having an ocean and a coastline. And in some accounts, he also gave the gift of the horse, which obviously horses are tremendously important for transportation, for agriculture, for battle. And Poseidon is also the god of horses. And then Athena, the goddess Athena, the goddess of the arts, the goddess of wisdom, the goddess of crafts. The goddess Athena offered the gift of the olive tree, and she gave the very first olive tree to the people of that land. And the olive tree was judged to be such a wonderful gift because it had wood. Of course, it had the food of the olive, which can be used in so many different things, so nutritious, so wonderful for cooking, and also to be made into olive oil, that the people of the Attic Peninsula judged that that gift was worthy of her becoming the patron, and that's why the city of Athens became the city of the goddess Athena, and the people of Athens were blessed with crafts and wisdom, and all types of arts flourished, centered on Athens, which was where the sacred very first olive tree was thought to have been given to humanity by the goddess Athena. But this myth shows that the resources of a land are gifts from the gods. And in the modern times, we talk a lot about, how are we going to pay for Medicare for everybody? Or how are we going to pay for infrastructure for the people? We have this horrendous austerity that is crushing countries, is uh, is caused by people who are focusing on, we won't have enough money to pay for this or for that social program. Well, it turns out that the very greatest resource that's given to any land is the resource of the men and women who are allowed to be born into that country. And the men and women of a country, the children that are given to a country, the very birth of children is a gift from the gods, as it's shown in many different myths. In the Greek myths, the goddess Artemis is present at the birth of any child. In the Greek myths, the humans were made by Prometheus. Men were made by Prometheus out of clay and then animated by a divine spark. And women, the first woman was made actually by Hephaestus, the god who's known as Vulcan in Roman myths. Hephaestus fashioned the first woman, and Athena gave her wisdom, and the goddess Aphrodite gave her the grace and beauty, and all the different gods gave her various different gifts. And that's why her name was called Pandora, which means all the gifts. Pandora, all the gifts that are given by the gods. Pandora was the first woman in the ancient Greek myths. So The men and women who are born into a country are the greatest resource in a country. And if those men and women, the talents and gifts that they're given are being wasted, if people are massively unemployed or underemployed, that is wasting the gifts that are given by the gods. So if we don't have enough health care, the way to get more health care and to make it less expensive is to produce more health care. And in order to do that, you need the gifts of men and women that are being squandered and wasted when you're not managing your resources and you have men and women who are massively unemployed and underemployed, meaning they may have a job, but they have gifts that could be used in some other area even more productively, or even more, they may have some special gift that's being wasted because of the mismanagement of the economy. So when you have austerity, what it means is you are wasting the resources of that country by having too much unemployment. Unemployment, if you read some of the most cutting edge modern economists will explain to you that unemployment is caused by either too much taxation, too little fiscal spending, too little government spending, or a combination of both. It's caused by trying to have fiscal austerity, trying to have your taxes too high and your government spending too low. And the economists such as Bill Mitchell of Australia, Professor Bill Mitchell, and Professor Randall Wray, Professor Stephanie Kelton, and the founder of modern monetary theory, Warren Mosler, who's a successful money manager, have explained that if you have massive unemployment and massive underemployment, first of all, that's how the real problem is a problem of not enough resources. If you have a healthcare problem, that means you're not producing enough healthcare. And the way to fix that is to use the resources that are given by the gods, the most important one of those being the talents of men and women who are being caused to be unemployed by fiscal austerity, by the government either taxing too much or not spending enough. So the government could create a jobs program. Some people call it a job guarantee program. Some people call it a transition job. Warren Mosler prefers to call it a transition job. If you have people who are unemployed, they're not going to get hired right out of being unemployed for 2 years by some corporation. Corporations aren't going to take a chance on someone who's been unemployed for 2 years. But if you create a government job, it could be creating more infrastructure. It could be creating bike paths next to railroad tracks. It could be creating bike paths next to interstates. It could be creating more health care. It could be creating more child care. There's all kinds of things that you could be doing with a jobs guarantee program, which would enable people to transition after they start to build up a work record into the private sector. But some people say, oh no, we can't spend on a jobs guarantee program. We don't have enough money. That's ridiculous. You're wasting valuable resources, and actually the government can create as much money as it wants to. That's the core insight of modern monetary theory, is that sovereign governments can create money to fund programs. And if those programs are adding to productivity, they're producing things that are needed, including healthcare, including olive oil, including wine, beer, bread, uh, red bell peppers, houses. If you've got things that are costing too much, it means because you're not producing enough things. And if you've got resources that are lying around not being used, then you're squandering the gifts of the gods. And if you have massive amounts of unemployment, then you're squandering the most important gift of the gods, which is the men and women who are allowed to be born into this world, who are gifts from the gods, and they're given gifts, just as we saw in the story of Pandora, the first woman who was given all these different gifts by Athena and Aphrodite, and all the different gods came and gave her different gifts. This shows that all these resources are given from the divine realm, from the realm of the gods. And if someone is saying, oh, we need to have a balanced budget, and you've got massive unemployment, that's actually a very immoral position to be saying, we cannot spend on a government jobs program because we have to have this arbitrary balanced budget. The real issue is the resources that are given to a nation by the gods, or by the divine realm if you prefer, or by nature if you want to say from nature. If you feel uncomfortable saying the divine realm, you could say they're the gifts of nature. But those gifts are given from the realm of the gods, and we are squandering those gifts when we allow people to be massively underemployed. In other words, they're not using their gifts to the fullest ability that they could be, or even worse, completely unemployed. And those are extremely fixable problems. There are many economists who have explained how to fix that problem. But the real issue is, you have a system that is against the ancient wisdom that's given to humanity, that has an actual trying to put a moral component on it. Says, no, we have a moral obligation to have a balanced budget. You have a moral obligation not to squander the gifts that are given from the divine realm, the gifts of nature, the gift of God, the gift of the gods, however you want to call it. But we have turned away from the ancient wisdom that was given to every single culture in the ancient myths and ancient sacred stories, and we've replaced it with this false a misinterpretation of the ancient myths, and it is causing enormous problems in our world today. But those problems can be fixed as we begin to listen to the ancient wisdom that we still have it. It's still available to us.